Today's assignment, you're going to be copying notes on a blank sheet of paper. So if you don't already have a piece of paper and a pencil, then I need you to pause the video and go grab one really quick. Okay, so now that everybody has a piece of paper and a pencil, I'm going to explain to you what I need you to copy down for the notes. Okay, so when I get to my next screen, I am going to have a fraction at the top of the screen. You need to write that fraction down, and then just below it, you'll need to write a division house or division garage. Okay, so you're going to copy the fraction and the division garage. There's going to be a bunch of extra little boxes all around this division garage or division house. You don't need to write those boxes. I'm going to explain to you what those are there for later on. Okay, so looking at the first slide, I have my fraction 3 divided by 5, or 3 over 5. The proper way to say this is 3/5. So write that down on your piece of paper, and then remember, you're just writing down the division garage. Okay? Once I start putting in numbers, you'll copy those numbers down, and you'll do the calculations with me. So hopefully you remember from the cowboy and horse video, the cowboy is the numerator, the guy that always rides on top, and the horse is the denominator, the guy that's always on the bottom. Okay, so when I'm looking at my division house, we treat it like a tent. The cowboy always sleeps inside the tent, so I'm going to go ahead and write a 3 inside the tent, and the horse always sleeps outside the tent, so I'm going to put the 5 on the outside. So you need to write these numbers down, 3 on the inside of your division house and 5 on the outside. Okay, so when we're doing division, what we need to do is we need to see how many times 5 can go into 3. And if I look, 3 is smaller than 5, so 5 cannot go into 3. So I'm going to put a 0 up here. And then the way division works is the number that we write on the top, we multiply that by the divisor, or the number on the outside. So I'm going to do 0 times 5, and that's going to give me 0. Okay, and then I'm going to do 3 minus 0, because we always subtract this number from the number above it. So 3 minus 0 is going to give me 3. Okay, the next thing I need to do would be to drag these decimals into the spot after the number we just got done writing down. So I'm going to put my decimals right here. I can't do it on my iPad right now, but on the activity today you'll be able to. So I'm going to drag my decimals over, and then after the decimal I'm going to put in a 0, because if there's no value after the decimal, what represents nothing? A 0. So I'm going to put a 0 after that decimal, and then I'm going to bring it down. So now I have 30. So then I look, how many times does 5 go into 30? Well, 5 goes into 30. Well, let's try doing some calculations. So I'm going to say, let's try 5 times 5. 5 times 5 gives me 25. Okay, so if you're thinking that might be correct, let's try it out. If I did 5 in the top, and now I'm going to do 5 times 5 to give me 25. Then I subtract. 30 minus 25 gives me 5. If you notice, my remainder is the same as my divisor, or that number on the outside. So that means that I did not go high enough up here. Okay, so I'm going to undo all of this, and let's try 6. So I'm going to do 5 times 6, and 5 times 6 is 30. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 6 up here, and now I'm going to do 6 times 5 gives me 30. 30 minus 30 is 0. Once I have a remainder of 0, I can stop dividing. Okay, so my final answer is 0.6, or 6/10. So I'll put 0.6 up here. Okay, let's look at the next one. So the next one, it says, what is 27/20, or 27 divided by 20, as a decimal? So I'm going to put the cowboy inside the tent, so 27, and the horse outside the tent, the 20. Okay, I'm going to go straight into putting the decimal in the correct spot so I don't forget. I always write my decimal right after the whole number inside the division garage. And then the decimal goes straight up above it on the top. So decimal, decimal. And since there's no values here, we can fill those in with zeros, but only if we need them. So let's see what we have here. How many times does 20 go into 2? Well, 20 doesn't go into 2, so I'm going to put 0. 0 times 20 is 0. 2 minus 0 is 2. Then I bring down my 7. So how many times does 20 go into 27? Well, it goes in once. So 1 times 20, right, because we're doing 1 times 20, gives me 20. And then we're going to subtract. 27 minus 20 gives me 7. Okay, since I have a remainder that's not 0, then I'm going to add a 0 in this placeholder up here where there is no value. So if there's no number, I always add a 0. Okay, so how many times does 20 go into 70? Well, 20 goes into 70 3 times. So let's do 20 times 3. So 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 2 is 6. So that would give me 60. Then I subtract. 70 minus 60 is 10. Okay, so my remainder needs to be lower than the divisor, so that tells me that we did the correct number of times up here, 3 times. Okay, so since there's no number in that placeholder, I'm going to add a 0 and bring it down. Now, how many times does 20 go into 100? And that would be 5. So let's do 20 times 5. So I'm going to do 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10, and it gives me exactly 100. 100 minus 100 is 0. We have a remainder of 0, and so my final answer would be 1.35, or 1 and 35 hundredths. So I'm going to write that up here, 1 and 35 hundredths. Okay, and the reason that we have a whole number here in front of my decimal is because the top number, the numerator, is larger than my divisor. If this number is ever bigger than what I'm dividing by, I'm going to have a whole number. Okay, so let's look at the last one. The last one, I have 10 divided by 9. So remember, 10 goes inside the division house or the tent, and the 9 is going to go outside. Next thing I want to do is I want to drag my decimals over. So I'm going to put a decimal after the 10 and then bring a decimal straight up. All right, so how many times does 9 go into 1? Well, 9 can't go into 1, so I'm going to put a 0. 0 times 9 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. Then I bring down another 0. Okay, how many times does 9 go into 10? It goes in once. 1 times 9 is 9. So I'm going to do 10 minus 9. What's 10 minus 9? That gives me 1. Okay, so since we're after our decimal here, and there's no number, I'm going to plug in a 0 and bring it down. Okay, how many times does 9 go into 10? The answer again is 1. 1 times 9 is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. I have another remainder, so I need to add a 0 and bring it down. So that's going to give me, that's going to give me 10 again. How many times does 9 go into 10? Well, 9 goes into 10 one time. So I'm going to put 1 up here, and 1 times 9 is 9, and 10 minus 9 is 1. Some of y'all are going to notice that the remainder continues to be 1 every single time. If we get that, and you notice that the remainder stays the same, we can stop even though it's not 0, because it's going to repeat on forever. So how do we write something like this where it's 1.11 and then it would keep on going on forever, 1, 1, 1, 1, and so on? Well, we would write it like this, 1.1 with a repetition bar over the repeating decimal. Okay, I'm not going to give you any of those, but I just wanted to introduce that today because it's hard to do a repetition bar in Google Slides. Okay, so Now that you're done taking down the notes, because you just got done writing all this stuff down on your piece of paper, and all of this stuff down on your piece of paper, and then same with this, you are going to get some practice plugging this into Google Slides. So watch the second video for today, and you'll see how to do that.